Okay, so everyone loves talking about green shipping. You hear all about ammonia, hydrogen, zero emissions.
All the new tech.
Exactly. But there's this massive piece of the puzzle that I feel gets left on the dock, the people.
That's the human element the industry keeps mentioning.
Yeah.
But I don't think people realize the sheer scale of the problem.
Right.
I mean, while the headlines are all about decarbonization and engine specs, we're quietly facing a skills emergency. We need to retrain, what, 800,000 seafarers by the mid-2030s?
800,000, that is a staggering number to retrain while the ships are still moving. And looking at this stack of reports we have, Lloyd's Register, the latest happiness index, and all this legislative stuff from the Philippines, it feels like we're asking the workforce to navigate a double transition.
That's a perfect way to put it. It
Mhm.
really is. You have crews trying to adapt to these pretty dangerous new fuels on one hand, and on the other, they're navigating a minefield of legal and welfare challenges.
So let's look at the fuel first. That Lloyd's Register report, the baseline training framework, really caught my eye. It stops treating these new fuels like they're just, cleaner gas.
Well, they're not. They are hazardous in ways that traditional marine diesel just isn't.
How so?
Take ammonia. It's not just a fuel, it's highly toxic. And we aren't talking about like a bad smell. We're talking about needing full hazmat protocols to enter specific toxic zones on the ship.
Wow. And then you've got hydrogen. The report talks about its leak propensity, which sounds so clinical.
It does, but what it means for an engineer on duty is pretty terrifying. Hydrogen is tricky. The molecule is so small it can leak through seals that would hold diesel just fine.
So you could have an invisible odorless leak.
Exactly. An invisible, odorless, high-pressure leak, creating what the report called flammable atmospheres
Yeah.
before you even know there's a problem.
That puts so much pressure on training. You can't learn to handle an invisible gas leak from a PDF.
No, you can't. Which is why you're seeing things like that new MOL training facility breaking ground in the Philippines this month. They're installing advanced simulators specifically for these new engine types.
So you can simulate the danger before you face it for real.
You have to, or people will get hurt, or worse.
Okay, so you've got a crew that is physically at risk from the fuel and mentally exhausted from the training. It's no big surprise the Q1 2025 Seafarers Happiness Index is flashing some warning lights.
Yeah, the headline score is 6.98 out of 10, which seems stable. But if you dig into the qualitative data, you see what they call the burden spiral.
The burden spiral, that sounds incredibly bleak.
It is. It's a vicious cycle. So imagine you're on an older ship that breaks down constantly. You have zero free time because you're always fixing things,
Okay.
but you need that free time to study for the new ammonia certification. Otherwise, you could lose your job. It's an impossible situation. You can't win.
And isolation is still a huge factor. I saw that if a trip goes over 12 months, the happiness score just crashes. It drops to 3.7.
It does. It really proves that, Starlink and WhatsApp are great, but they are not a substitute for actually stepping on land.
Which brings us to the situation back home, the financial and legal side of it.
Right, particularly in the Philippines.
Yeah, we saw that IBF agreement for a 5% pay raise kicking in this year, which is great. But then there's this massive controversy over the Magna Carta of Filipino seafarers. It sounds like a Bill of Rights, but labor groups seem furious.
They are. It's all about the fine print, specifically this execution bond mechanism.
I had to read that part 3 times. Let me see if I got this. A seafarer sues a company for an injury or unpaid wages, and they win the case. They still can't get the money if the company decides to appeal.
Not unless the seafarer posts a financial bond themselves. So you've been injured, you win your case, but to access the funds to pay your medical bills, you have to put up your own money first.
That seems like it would stop almost anyone from even trying to pursue a claim.
That's the argument from the labor side. They say it chills access to justice. And that's on top of other things, like a mandatory 80% remittance rule, where you have to send most of your salary home.
So you put it all together and it paints this really demanding picture. We're asking seafarers to be chemically expert enough to handle hydrogen.
Mentally resilient enough to survive year-long isolation.
And now, legally savvy enough to navigate bond requirements just to get paid.
We really are at a pivot point. The industry is pushing hard for green shipping, and that's a good thing. But if we don't treat the workforce as a sustainable resource, just like the fuel, the whole system starts to look pretty fragile.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As we build these high-tech, zero-emission ships of the future, Are we treating the crew as the highly skilled pilots they are, or just another expendable part in the supply chain?
That is the question we should all be asking.
Definitely something to chew on. That's all for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.